Hello Sumit, you are welcome to another tutorial. In this video, we are going to be learning how to draft a contoured tube pattern. We'll be learning how to draft a contoured tube pattern with yoke. So, if you watched my last video on the bust cage corset I did, is the pattern I'm using is same pattern. There is no difference. The only difference is the cup, the bust part that we actually cut out of it. So if you've seen that video, it will be easier for you to understand this, but I'm explaining again on this part. So this one basically is the contoured pattern block on its own. So let's get started. I already have my horizontal lines drawn out, then my vertical line for the armhole. Then I already came up by 1 inch like this at the armhole line from the chest line. Then the next thing I will do, I will take my bust measurements. The quarter of the bust measurements I'm working with is 9.25. After that, I'll connect. I'll connect to where I did my shoulder slope. Now here is my shoulder slope line. So the next thing I will do, I'm not connecting the shoulder slope yet because we are getting another another armhole line for it. If you watch the last video, you understand. Then after that, the next thing I have to do is to take my dart line, my nipple to nipple. The nipple to nipple I'm working with is 7 inches. So divide by 2, I'll get 3.5. Now, in making a contoured tube block, you can see that my first horizontal line is the chest line. Then the next one, I have the apex, which is also known as the bust point. Then I have the under bust. After the under bust, I have the waist. Now, after the waist, I'm having the true waist. I tag it as a true waist because we are going to be creasing, like we'll be taking that away from the side, and that is 2 inches. We take 1 inch up, 1 inch down, 1 inch down, and at the end of the day, we are taking 2 inches away from it. So by the time we take the 2 inches, we split the 2 inches away from it. You know, the side of this pattern is going to, it won't be enough. The 2 inches will already be out of it. So that's the reason why I added this other line. And if you check, it is 2 inches. I added 2 inches that will cover up for the one we'll be creasing out at the side. So with that being said, I have to take my dart intake. For the person I'm working with, the dart intake is 2 inches. So I'll be taking 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on the other side. So I will take my dart intake from the true waistline. I will come to the under bust. I'll take my dart intake. Then I will connect. Then after that, you know, I took my dart line is 3.5. That's my nipple to nipple line. Divide by 2 is 3.5. I am extending it to the shoulder line. I'm extending it upwards. I'll mark the 3.5. Then I'm ruling straight. Then after this, the next thing I have to do is from this apex, I will come down by half an inch. I explained that in my last video also. Then I will also go up by half an inch. Then here on this shoulder part is just a tightening. Then I will come to the side 1 inch, then to this other side another inch. Is also a tightening, and this place we are going to be cutting it out. So I'll have my lines drawn as like this. Remember, we took on 1 inch connected to the half an inch we came up with from the apex, which is also the bust point. So here we have to connect from the under bust, this 2 inches that intake we took. We have to connect from the under bust to the half inch we came down with from the apex. You can see how I'm placing my ruler. You make sure it's not too curvy. Then after doing this, you know, we are taking 2 inches from the neck, part. Now if we cut these 2 inches away, if we didn't return it, we will have shortage at the end of the day, too fitting. So what we will do, this 2 inches is going to come out of the draft totally. This is a contoured block, also known as bustier block. Is also known as your bustier pattern. So the next thing, these 2 inches we are taking out from here, you know, the one we'll be taking out from the side, I already returned it to the hem of the length I'm working with. This is actually a half length block because I'm attaching the dress, the down part of the dress to it. So these 2 inches we are taking out, we have to return it so that at the end of the day, our shoulder, you know, the shoulder width, half of it is 7.5. So if we remove these 2 inches, we are going to be left with 5.5. If we now return it, our measurement goes back to 7.5. So that's what we are doing here. You take the 2 inches and you mark. So after marking it like that, is now these 2 inches serve as a guide for you. Use your armhole curve ruler. You make sure you are using your armhole. If you want to get it correct, use your armhole. Then you connect. So by the time we remove this is coming in place of this, and our measurement is still going to be the same. And if you are watching very well, you see that I've not done my shoulder slope, because at the end of the day, this part doesn't count anymore. So I will start my shoulder slope from here, because this is where our shoulder line is starting from. Then the next thing, I'm going to take my waist measurement, then my seam allowance also. So the waist measurement, the quarter of the waist measurement is 8.25. Now you know we took 2 inches for the dart intake, and these 2 inches we are cutting it away. We are cutting like this, we are cutting it away. So we have to return the 2 inches. So 8 plus 25 plus 2 inches will give me 10.25. So here is it, my 10.25. Then the next thing I have to do is to add my seam allowance. I use 1.5 for seam allowance. Then I will come to the bust line and I will also add my seam allowance and connect. After that, we are going to be taking our darts. We are going to be taking our side dart, which is the classic dart. So from this same apex line, from this midpoint at the apex line, I'm also coming in by 2.5 of an inch. The reason why we are doing this, you know, this is directly not connected to this line, and this one is directly not connected. It's ending at this half inch we went up in with, then the half inch we came down with, is because at the end of the day we don't want to have a bustier top that is going to be pointed at the nipple part. That's why we are doing this. So here you come down by half an inch, you go up by half an inch, then at the side here you come in by 2.5. So after doing that, I'll take my dart, which is 1 inch, 1 inch side by side, then I'll connect to this 2.5 that I just marked. So this is all about it. So the next thing we are going to do, I will slit this place up. I'll slit it off so that I will be able to crease this place to balance this dart line, because you know we are not cutting it like this on the material. We are closing here, so this part is not going to be showing on our material. We are not making that for the side on the material. So the next thing I will have to do is to split it so that I will be able to crease it. So this is it. I have to crease this part. But before we'll be able to crease this part, before I'll be able to crease this space, I have to open up here. If not, I can't access here. So the next thing to do is to cut here off. It ended at the apex, the bust point. So the next thing, you can decide to fold it, you can decide to cut it. So it's easier to actually just cut it. So let's cut directly on the dart line that we took. Then I'm ending at the 2.5 that I came in with. So this is it. Now you can see that after creasing it, the lines are not equal. So you can see that the lines are not equal. That's why it's not advisable to actually just finish cutting before you crease. You kind of crease before you cut it equally, because you will reshape this side. So this is it. I've reconnected it. Then the next thing for me to do now is to cut here up for us to create our neckline. We'll have to cut this piece. I'll also cut it out because it's not needed. Then I place it together. that it's not passing the line that I've already ruled. So this is it. So I'm going to create my neckline and my shoulder slope. The neck width I'm working with is 4 inches. I mean the neck depth is 4 inches. The neck width is 3.5. So here's my 3.5. And I'll connect my shoulder slope. After that, I'll connect my neckline. It depends on the neckline you're working with. If it's V neckline, any pattern of neckline you're working with, you just do it to your preference. Then I will cut. So the next thing to do now is to connect my yoke, is to sketch my yoke off. Then again, before I will do that, before I take the yoke, it depends on how I want on the pattern of yoke I'm creating. If you check the photo on the video, you will know that it is actually just coming down to the waistline of the dress, to the half length of the dress. So my yoke that I'll be connecting it down. Then at this point, it depends on how high I want it or how low I want it. If I want my breast to be opened or I want it covered, it depends on how I want it. Now on this, I can decide to go up from this midline by 1 inch. Then my 1 inch will be here, but I want it higher than that. I want it fully covered with the Ankara I'm working with. So I'm coming up by 1.5 inch. So this is my 1.5. Then from this 1.5, I will connect to my armhole. You can see this. I'm connecting it to my armhole. Then here it's going to come. This place is meant to be wide, like the yoke at the center of it. But I really do not want mine like that, so I'm just going to be leaving a very small space, like 3/4, that will serve as my yoke. I will leave like 3/4 to serve as the yoke. So this 3/4 I'm marking will guide me with my curve. So I will connect it Then the remaining part of it is straight down. So this is basically just it. But here now we are going to open here up. We've already connected it. So we are going to open it. Okay. Yeah, we'll open here up, we'll cut here. So our yoke for this style we are making, this is the yoke. This is the yoke for the dress. So what I will do is to cut. So now don't forget that we are going to be adding here, like this is our yoke. We'll be adding half an inch round it. Half an inch, half an inch, half an inch on the fabric. This is the half an inch we are adding like this is what we will use to join it to this other part. So this is all about the yoke. And you know that this part is actually going to be on fold. This place is going to be on fold at the edge. That's why we're not adding anything. But here like this, to the armhole, we're adding half an inch. Then we have to open here up, because it's a bustier top and we're going to be padding it. So I will trim, you know, here is part of the tightening we did, so I will trim it off. So the next thing, same way we're adding half an inch round, we'll add half an inch here. We're adding half inch round it, half inch and half inch. On this one also, it's the same thing we are doing. We add half an inch. So when we place on our material, before we cut, we add the half an inch. I'm actually labeling the half an inch on it so that I don't forget when I'm cutting. So you add your half an inch, and that is all about the front pattern. So this is the back. This is the back pattern of the bustier top we are working on. Now, the back pattern is actually very simple. If you don't know how to do this, you can check my basic bodies pattern tutorial. I will drop the link below. You can check to know how to actually draft this pattern. It's very easy to make. So the only thing we are doing here is the zipper tightening. I've not done the zipper tightening, so I'll just go ahead and do my zipper tightening. Then I'll connect it to my chest line. Then it will quarter it up from there. I'll add it back. So this is just basically all. Then the only thing we have to do on this back pattern is to drag the yoke, because the back of the dress also have a yoke. So, and I want the yoke to come down a bit from the chest line. So my yoke will be starting from here. I came down by 1 inch. So I will connect from here to my armhole line. So I'm using my pattern master to get the curve I want for for my back yoke. So actually it depends on what you want. It depends on what you want. So this is just everything about the back pattern. So what I have to do is to cut. Here will be my yoke, here will be my dampers. That's all. So